Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Future Friday, we're going to talk about something very small scale power independence. So let's dive right into it. Now, this is one of those things that has slowly, quietly working in the background, and it has a very big and profound impact if you stretch it to its upper limits. So we have to understand this. So what's the problem? We need this small scale power independence. Well, reality is that we are 100% power dependent. Even in country like India where we have regular power cuts, that's like we are kind of used to it. It's 1 or 2 hour power cuts, like nobody even notices it because all of us has inverters. But if that stretches to one day, that's really uncomfortable. Stretches to 2 days, now that's dangerous. That's the whole point. All of us in growing world is 100% dependent on power. It's not optional, it's compulsory. And outages is not just inconvenience, it could be dangerous and deadly. For example, this happened this is a real event where you had a basically stadium, a transformer went boom, and stadium well, and this could create a serious hazard. Imagine same sort of things happening in hospital. Like hospital should have backup and this and all that. All of those things are secondary options, they are not primary option. And not to mention, if your house itself becomes basically uninhabitable, which recently happened in Texas simply because the power cut was happening in winter and the temperature goes really low. Like we Indians, we are more afraid of heat waves simply because India gets hot, as in like ludicrously, idiotically hot. 50 degree plus Celsius is common for us. So we are more afraid of heat rather than we are afraid of cold. So different people, but it is very dangerous and deadly. For example, upper floors of my house can become really singeingly hot. Like it's a really painful for my mom to stay there unless there is air conditioning running. So you have to understand, imagine a long power cut in those sort of scenario. It becomes dangerous and deadly very quickly. And price of power is going up constantly, meaning you can plot a graph since your birth, like from, in my case it would be 1993, and power prices are like yeet, it's just going yeet. Every country, not just because of a recent war and all that, it was going up before it and it will keep going up after it. So it's becoming a very painful thing on your pocket. And you might say, okay, let's just go off grid or on grid, full grid solar system. Yes, they are ludicrously expensive. For example, in my case, in my currency, it was like 7 lakh rupees. That's like the price of a good car, not the great car, not a BMW or Audi, but a good Hyundai car or Toyota car, kind of low budget one. So by the time I will save up that kind of money, that would have turned to 10 lakhs. Now I have to spend that much money in order to get solar. So it's not expectable. And people want freedom, because even in India recently we went through a very severe coal shortage, and it was brutal. As in, like, we are Indians kind of used to power outages, but we are not used to like power not coming in the first place. Like power going out, okay, we can manage it. 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hours, 8 hours, even 18 hours. But power not coming for at all, flat out power not coming, that's not something that we can manage. So fundamentally there is a serious problem. We have to deal with it. Almost everywhere in this planet it is something becoming serious. So the first thing you will think about is small scale power independence. You'll like, generator, what about that? Well, fuel prices are going up also, and that's the primary reason why electricity prices are going up, and it's going up constantly. Meaning, if you are in a scenario, for example, let's say in India, you have a this sort of generator. These are very common in India, used to be, not anymore, simply because again fuel prices are so goddamn high. If you are using them once a week, you will go bankrupt just by the oil prices. So it's very brutal. Unless you have like GG amounts of money, this sort of things is not very basically financially viable. So let's just put it that way. And not to mention, this has effect on industry. For example, there are two places, let's say two states, West Bengal and Gujarat. Gujarat has a lot of factories, and they are providing products, goods for much cheaper price. Why? Because they have good electricity. They have sorted that part out. So their electricity is everywhere else. Every company, every factory, they have to invest a lot of money on generators, which you might be like, even they should do. Again, they do, but here's the deal, they are only running it for maintenance. They're like, every 10 days, turn off the main line, start the generator, see the output, check everything, and then let it run for 15 to 20 minutes, then shut it down. That's one thing. Another thing, to like, for every basically week, we have to run it for 2 to 3 hours. That's a different kind of financial backhole that you have to deal with. So fuel prices, even with a modern advanced basically Honda inverter generators, you still have to pay money for the fuel, and if you have to use it constantly, it's expensive, very, very expensive. And they are very ill prepared kind of equipment for irregular use. For example, if you are living in USA, many times, which recently happened in that Texas system, many people's generator were not working. Why? They were not used to testing that puppy every few days. For example, any big generator installed in any properly certified location will have an automatic system that will turn it on, let's say depending on the manufacturer's requirement, every 10 day or every 15 day, but it will turn that puppy on. It will turn it on, it will do all the calibration test, everything is like sound, everything, because you can figure it out a lot of things before it goes bad if you're just observing it properly and using it regularly. And then it will like, okay, generator is working, everything is fine, everything is good. If generator is not broken, okay, fix the goddamn generator before you have a power outage and you're like, dude, we don't have backups. So irregular running is like, these sort of generators are not designed for irregular running. They have to be run regularly, then they are like good. But otherwise you may be like, yeah, I have a backup generator which does not run. So most people can't care and maintain this sort of equipment. It's like a far more personal than you realize. It's like you have to pay attention to it. And to give you an example, can you actually do it or not? When was the last time you opened your car hood and checked the basically oil stick? When was the last time? That's the whole thing. Again, some people must have done that. Like some people have that kind of like actual dedication to equipments, but most people don't. Even I thought I will do that, but I was like, nope. So what has changed in this market recently? Power stations started to become a thing, and after recent outage, it's becoming a really, really big thing. So what's happening here? Well, basically somebody took a power bank and made love to it and made it more steroids and stuff and all that. So now it has AC output. What does that mean? That simply means big ones you can buy, like this things one, they can provide enough power to run any laptop. I'm talking even gaming laptop that are consuming 150 watts to 300 watts, even that will run on them flat out. And some go even further than that, that reaches a point of kilowatts, meaning it will run your air conditioner, your refrigerator, or even your submergible pump without any given. Like some of them are so well built, they actually have surge current, so they can start a very large induction motor. So these are becoming the next big thing at this point in time. Slowly, it's spreading everywhere. Now, unfortunately, it has not reached India that well, simply because, again, most of the systems are US built system, meaning they are 100 and 110 volts and around 60 hertz, not suitable for India. It has to be 50 hertz and 200 volts. So at least 200 volts. So we are supposed to be 230, but 200 is like, tolerance, 10% tolerance is acceptable by design. So only some companies make that can be used in India. For example, Nitecore, and this is another no Chinese name brand, but it also has like 200 volt output. This sort of systems generally have 110 volt output, not suitable. Like Jackery power bank, it's not suitable for Indian applications. But what's the critical aspect here? Well, somebody, when they were designing it, they were like, what if we can charge it? Now, back in the old days, chargers were an independent circuit. But in the new days, charger is just the main system that is taking the DC, making it into AC, running in reverse. So now you can buy this sort of power bank and they can charge extremely quickly, even quicker than my goddamn inverters. Meaning, however powerful you buy, as long as you can provide the amps to it, again, your circuit breaker has a limit. As long as you can pump the energy into it, they can absorb it, meaning they can achieve full charge in 2 hours. Does not matter whether it's 1 kilowatt hour or 10 kilowatts hour, they can achieve it in 2 hours, as long as you can feed it, of course. If it's like, battery bank is super huge, it will take few hours simply because otherwise it will trip your circuit breakers. So that AC is becoming super awesome. And most of them realize that what if you have a solar input into that? Because again, they have very complicated DC circuit. That's the same thing you need for charging energy from, absorbing energy from solar panels, because solar panels have a unique signature. They may have very high floating voltages compared to, like, if you will directly test basically solar panel, 24 volt solar panel could easily give you 30 plus volts, easily open circuit voltage. So you have to understand that, like, there is a bit of uniqueness to solar panels. You have to understand that and how to manage it. If you do that, then you're like, hey, I can absorb DC from solar panels. All of the manufacturers are like, you know what, that's a very good idea. What if we do that? Have solar input. So what does this mean? This simply means they are really good for emergency, meaning you have this and you can run them for much longer. They do not require maintenance, meaning unless you do not touch them once a year, they will be in bad shape. If you are touching them once a year, that's more than good enough. And if you scale that puppy up, meaning this is a very good example how huge it can go. This company designed a system where you have inverters and battery banks separate unit. Why? Well, depending on your requirement, you may have a scenario where you don't need a lot of capacity, but you need a lot of oomph. You are driving something very powerful, but for a very short duration. Let's say a farmhouse where you have a very high power motor pump. In those sort of scenarios, you can bond these two inverters and have very high output while having only 2 battery packs. But you may be in other scenario also. For example, let's say a normal basic household. You're not consuming too much amps continuously running, but you need long duration. How about you add 4 battery banks or even more than that? Then you have like ludicrously long runtime. And solar panel, how much solar panel do you have? A lot. a lot kind of solar panels can be added to this. So you can start as low as like 300 to 400 watt, which over the course of a day, in case worst case scenario, should be enough to have lights, heaters, but again not very powerful heater, but enough. And especially if it's a heat pump kind of scenario, it should keep you alive well enough. And if it's like kilowatt scale solar farm, then you are set. At that point in time, all your basic needs would be taken care of. You don't have to worry about it. Especially in summer, your fridges will work, your fans will work, your lights will work, your laptops will work, even your TVs and all that will work. You don't have to worry about it. So this sort of system is slowly starting to become more ubiquitous. Everywhere people are like realizing the value of it. That's why you would have noticed that we went from one or two companies making big power banks to randomly like giant generators. Basically, that's the whole point. And again, they can accept the denomination of generator because they accept power from solar panel, meaning they can be independent. And some people have reached a point where they're like, dude, I'm buying such an expensive equipment. What if we make it into a secondary equipment, meaning they have a secondary isolated grid system that is just working there. That's like, their computers, if they have a home server or whatever have you, it's completely independent. It's like power comes, power goes, does not matter. And they don't even have to pay for it because these things are expensive. You don't have to pay for it. So I have provided a video down below from 8-bit guy. He did something similar. So these are things becoming more and more ubiquitous, and more company are working on it. I really like this sort of design of like, not making everything integrated. Again, from a repairability point of view, from a longevity point of view, serviceability point of view, these are kind of awesome designs. So that's the power station. That's slowly becoming from a niche tool to like, people are like, you know what, this is a really useful tool. Especially for work from home, you have to go to some village where you do not have reliable power. That's a really good thing. Then we come to Indian solution, that is solar retrofit. Because India did not have really good power stability, unless you are in Gujarat. Most other states have really bad power. So we kind of used to it, meaning almost every households have inverter. Like I have myself gone through at least 4 inverters. So this box basically, it takes care of everything. It switches the power when it's like, your mains go away. They take care of everything. You add battery to it. Now back in the old days, I only had batteries that are like one battery, a 12-volt battery, around 100 amp hour. Now I have like 2 batteries that are like 24 volt and 220 amp hour capacity. So it's significant kind of system. Almost all mid-income Indian households generally have this sort of setup. Now while a full house solar system is ludicrously expensive, add-on system is not that expensive, simply because this sort of unit is very cheap. It's like around a few dollars, as in like 3,000 rupees or something like that. It's not that expensive, and it allows basically this equipment to be used in a better way. Basically, you will add solar panels and your previous inverter from whatever manufacturer. These are cross manufacturer compatible because it's not smart device. It's a dumb device. It does work. It's nothing complicated. And there are many other brands also, and they are available in all voltages, meaning you could have a system that, like for example, this can support 2 voltages, 24 volts and 12 volts. But again, the power rating goes down simply because its power rating will go down from 400 watts of solar array to 800 watts. If you are going to 24 volt, this puppy can handle 800 watt. If it's less voltage than only 400, then you can buy the bigger variants of this. These are generally designed for 48 volt or up to 110 volt DC system. Now like, wait a minute, that's very high. Those are systems generally used in basically office servers, where you are running a giant basically online UPS or double conversion UPS. Those sort of scenarios, you really have idiotically huge battery banks. In those sort of scenarios, this puppy will able to handle it. Then you can reduce your power bill, and at that, if you are dealing with those sort of power, yeah, your power will like go down, significantly go down. So this sort of system is becoming very easily available in India, and is easy way to reduce the bill. It will not remove the bill. It will not take, let's say my bill is 5,000. It will not drop my bill from 5,000 to, let's say, almost like that bare charge that we have to pay. It will not do that, but it will take 5,000 to 4,000, hopefully. So that's the point. It's a very easy way to reduce the bill. And it does not require complex installation, because on-grid solar array requires governmental office, paperwork, legal hoo-has, which things basically you do not want to deal with unless you have to deal with them. So solar retrofits are really good tool of whatever we already have. What if we add more to it? What if we get more life out of it? What if we reduce our electrical bill while doing that? So this sort of small solar array can easily, in my case, if I do something similar to this, I only need like around, again, maximum I can add is 800 watt. If I actually did that, I can run my computer and this presentation system basically without any issue. On a summer's day, if power cut happens, which is the generally most common time for our country to experience power surge, I don't like power shortages. I don't have to worry about it. It's like, yeah, I cannot just like let my computer idle. I have to like work and then shut it down, but it can be done. So that's a really good option for Indian markets. While that power bank options are not ubiquitous here, but this sort of inverter power solar retrofits are becoming more and more common, and it's very logical use of tools that we already have. So what is the hope with this? Why I'm talking like this sort of technology looks like very down to earth, and why I'm talking about this in Future Friday? Well, reality is people are taking charge of their power, and it's a very good thing simply because most of us studied about voltage, amps, amp hour, kilowatt hour, kVA, things of this nature. Most of us studied about it, but we don't give a single time about it. The only time we give a damn about it is when like our bills are getting high. So this sort of DIY approach is really healthy for a nation where everybody is like, it becomes aware of it. Oh, that's what happens. Oh, that's how you're supposed to do things. That's how much energy I'm wasting. Like, for example, when you are buying an air condition, you may be like tempted to buy a cheap air condition and be like, you know what, this is cheap air conditioner, but you may not pay attention to the fact that why a 5-star air conditioner is very expensive, because like again it has complicated technology that allows it to work far more efficiently. Now that efficiency will not, like many times people justify, it's like, dude, I barely use it, so might as well buy the cheap one. No, trust me, you will, over the course of year, it always pays to get a most 5-star rated system. In my case, I had to buy a 4-star system, but unfortunately there is a reason. Like if you have a heat pump system, meaning reversible air conditioner, it will have a consequence because it uses the pressure to change the valve. So there is a bit of pressure drop, but it's almost like if it was like 4.45 above in terms of what is it, EER rating, then it would have a classified as 5 rate. It's like almost 4.44, so it's almost there. So I'm like, yeah, that's more than good enough. And not to mention, in winter it does act as like an amazing heater at that point in time. JJ. So people have to become aware of, people have to know these things, have to study this sort of thing, and that's happening. I'm really happy about that. And you have to understand, the world will not change unless the people living in them change. That's the one thing you must understand, that unless people change, nothing else changes. And this sort of DIY approach, this sort of approach, hey, I can do it, this sort of, I have inverter, how about I add a small solar to it, all these sort of thing does pile up into a big impact. And this also opens up market for a lot of competition. The more competition you have, the better prices we have, the quicker this sort of changes will occur. And then it also allows fast track new technology to market. For example, lithium ion battery is a good system. It's a really tested, proven working system, but it's a dangerous system. It's almost like having a petrol tank in your car. So in those sort of scenario, somebody figured out, hey, what if you have lithium iron phosphate? It does have consequences of not being as dense as a lithium ion, but it does have the ability to be safe, meaning it will not catch on fire, it will burn. Like for example, it will burn exactly like anything else. For example, wood, chair, plastics, it will burn, but it will not catch on fire, it will not go boom, it will not do that. So that's the whole reason, it's far safer. And what about longevity? Here's the deal, that's even longer lifespan. So rather than barely having 1000 or 2000 cycle, you can easily achieve 3 to 4000 cycles. So in practice, with a good BMS, you can easily expect multi year lifespan. Around 4 or 5 is easy, 10 if you are not like very brutal with it. So that's the reality of it. The more market competition, better technologies, fast tracking, and these sort of things are small steps. But if you have that many small steps piled together, that's a big movement. That's like you're moving someplace. So many times I have covered a lot of interesting topics, but all of them generally require governmental intervention. This is something that you and I can do. And it's really good that our humanity is coming together, capitalism is coming together, and it's like, how about we create tools for it? How about we reduce the price of these tools? How about more and more people take charge of their own power consumption on their own hands? How about they learn, they understand, not just like something they study in school, something that they inherently understand. It's a really hopeful thing. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. Again, hopefully also, I myself might get a solar retrofit soon, hopefully. Let's knock on wood. Then again, I'll make a video about that. So this is my hope for it. That's why I covered it in Future Friday. That's a very good future that we are moving towards. So this was my presentation on basically small scale power independence. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please hit the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.